Hello, Eagle fans. It's been a minute, hasn't it? Well, Liberty and Guardian are doing well. They spend a little bit of time in the nest each day, but as we suspected, they will not be having a second clutch of eggs this year. Lots of excitement for you in today's video. Very interesting as we get two subadult bald eagles visiting the nest, one after the other, and then together. You'll see the first one here, a subadult. And since we're in the spring, we probably have a full year eagle since they tend to hatch in the spring. So this one is likely 3 years old. You can see the dark feathers behind the eye here, the auricular feathers. And the beak on this one does not have a lot of darkness to it, which makes me think that it is a 3-year-old and not a 2-year-old molting into the phase where you would think it's a 3. So I think it's a 3 that will be molting towards a 4th year over the next year. You'll see it becomes aware here of something else, and whoop, there we get a second subadult. That is not Liberty, that's not Guardian. You can see the dark feathers in its head and its tail. And notice the interaction between these two birds now, and we'll contrast it to later. They do not seem to like each other here. There's a lot of ruffling of feathers, kind of a standoffish pose. The feathers there on the back of the older bird, the second one that came in, are ruffled in the back and pretty much throughout its body. And in just a second here, you'll see it force the first subadult out. You'll see that the second bird that flew in, this one here, still has a few dark feathers behind the eyes and around the head, but it looks at least 1 year older than the first subadult. Because it has those characteristics that are somewhere between the 3.5 and 4.5 year old typical subadult, let's say, because this is spring, that this is probably a 4-year-old in its molt going to the 5th year. So I'm going to fast motion here 3 times normal speed so we can catch up to the next significant activity. Okay, we'll back to normal motion. Watch the area where the arrow is. And you'll see the other bald eagle fly by. You'll see the tree shake. There, the second eagle there in the nest looked up as the first one apparently landed in a branch above it. And in just a second, you'll see that what I'll call the first eagle, the younger eagle, drop down from that branch where it landed. And now it's in the nest again. Now I'm going to stop the video right here in order to explain something that caught my eye. And I'd love to hear in the comments what you think. When I saw this eagle, the younger eagle, the one that's closest to us here, dropped down into the nest, I started to look at it, and it looked different, a little different than the one that the older of the two subadults had forced out of the nest. You'll see the dark feathers behind the eye there are not quite as defined as the other one appeared. And then I started looking for other similarities and differences. When I restart the video here in a few seconds, you'll see that the interaction between these two birds is different than the first encounter, which was kind of offensive, defensive, and very upset, and a lot of ruffled feathers. And from this point out, when you'll see this, there aren't a whole lot of ruffled feathers. So I started wondering, wait a minute, is this a third bird, which was different than the first one that was forced out of the nest? So I don't know. The interaction is completely different. Yes, there are a few beaky, kind of testy moments like you would see in a mated pair, but not really anything that would approach something where you would think the birds are going to fight or push each other out of the nest. So I looked for some identifiers from the bird that got forced out of the nest and the younger one here. And what I saw was that the auriculars are different in appearance on the left and the right, but that it is in all likelihood that this the younger subadult is the same bird that got forced out, and that is here because it has a fairly unique identifier on its head. Let me show it to you here. I found a very distinguishing mark between the two birds, the first encounter where the bird got forced out and the second encounter where the bird dropped in. You'll see that dark, wavy kind of mark on the top of the head, kind of like a 2 or a Z. So despite the very marked change in behavior between the two birds and some apparent marking differences in the auriculars and other areas that might be explainable by light, I think that that very distinctive mark of identification proves that the first bird that was forced out is the second bird that came in, strange as it seems. So let's let the video roll again, and you'll be able to see the difference in the interaction here. And some of this here I will not narrate because there's nothing special here, but I will return to narrate later on and here and there throughout. And I can tell you that Liberty and Guardian do eventually show up here, so stay tuned for that. So in the interaction here, that's just so different than when the older flew into the nest and forced the younger out. You'll see that they're head to head here. There's no ruffling of the mantle feathers or other feathers that would these two, I don't know it, but it looks like they're familiar with each other. Whereas the first encounter, it didn't look like they knew each other. So, go figure. In the interest of time, I'm going to put this on 3 or 4 times normal speed until we get to other points of interest. But if you are interested in seeing the full incident at normal speed, unnarrated, I will be putting out that version of the video at some point after this one. So let's go to a higher speed now. This is a good point to stop the motion while the birds are both at the same distance away from the camera. Yes, the older one on the right is turned slightly sideways, but as the video starts, you'll be able to see that the one on the right, in my opinion, is so much larger than the one on the left that the sexes may be apparent, that the one on the left might be a male and the one on the right might be a female. Spoiler alert, Liberty and Guardian are about to return home here within the minute. And I think that Liberty tells them that this house is not for sale. It is not a Verbo home, and that they cannot stay. It is most definitely Liberty that lands in the nest. And as some of you often say, where's Guardian? You'll hear him nearby. And though he never shows up in the nest tonight, I think that you'll hear him nearby and engaged many times throughout. So let's watch. So the older one has fled the nest, and some say that female eagles fight female eagles and males fight males. And if that's true, that would show that the older one sure might be a female, since Liberty went after it. And you'll see that the other one stays in the nest. So you'll hear a lot of vocalizations going on as Liberty and the older subadult intruder are flying around. The best way to track what's going on is to watch where this other subadult in the nest is looking. So I don't think they're on the ground. I don't think they're in another tree. They're out definitely chasing each other around. Let's let it roll. So the younger subadult intruder flies off out of the nest, and over the next 40 minutes, there is very frequent vocalizations, definitely from Liberty, I think from Guardian as well. Liberty visits the nest twice, once coming up here in just a second. She comes in, is vocalizing, and goes back out. "40 minutes of vocalizations, and about 45 minutes later, Liberty comes back into the nest again. It seems that the two subadults were not chased away, at least far enough for Liberty and Guardian's liking, because they just kept vocalizing for that 40 to 45 minutes. And Liberty comes back here, and eventually she flies out, and things quiet down for the night. I will let you watch the rest of this in its raw form. And again, if you want to see the entire incident unnarrated and all at normal speed, refer to the video that will be published just after this one. Folks, it's good to be with you again. I hope you enjoy this. Be safe and be well.